and moon can't seem to stop talking about you. And my heart goes.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to yet another episode here on Solid Jamaz. Episode number 24. We are so glad to be doing this. We thank God for the opportunity to keep doing this, to giving us life and health. I want to give you some feedback before we can go ahead. We did episode number 22 some weeks back. This episode we were talking about unpacking the business of submission in marriage that some men are craving for. It was a very interesting and deep episode.
Craving for demanding.
Demanding and craving for. The craving is silent. The men are not speaking.
Silent treatment. I wonder how they're going to get it there.
They're not necessarily speaking about what they really want, but that's what they are craving for. But like we saw in the episode, also good feedback. Guys are actually demanding. It came from the angle of people demanding, I want my wife or I want my woman to submit to me, and so on.
I want my wife to kneel.
I don't know. Anyway, so we did that episode. If you want to check it out, go to episode number 22 here on Solid Jamaz. Florence, I'm not going to say your second name, but Florence said, it has been worth the time spent listening. Thanks, Lawrence and Solid Jamaz, for some of these things that you've been sharing. And some of my takes are this one. Number one, it's okay and acceptable to feel weary, but it's not okay to quit your marriage and family. Number two, be or behave like a king and you will be indeed treated like one. And be or behave like a queen and you will indeed be treated like one. And then number three, submission should be mutual out of reverence for Christ. Number four, submit, love, and serve. And number five, lastly, honor is freely given, not necessarily deserved or earned. Thank you so much, Florence, for giving us that particular feedback.
Thank you,
we
Florence.
are so appreciative. If you are having any other feedback that you want to give us, you can go to solidjamaz@gmail.com and drop us an email, and we're gonna get back to you. We enjoy getting feedback from you guys. So anyway, my name is Lawrence Namale. I'm so glad to be a co-host on a Solid Jamaz. And
hello. Well, this is Ngonzi, the Solution Wataba II. And as always, it's a blessing to come to you with those insights that are life-giving, light-bringing, and mind-changing to bring you to a place of growth in all things and on all sides. And Lawrence, today we are really blessed as married people, you and I. And on behalf of all the married people out there, or those who think about marriage, even those who quit marriage, today we have a very, very inspirational guest. She's a friend I've known for over 10 years.
Oh.
And I welcome to the Solid Jamaz podcast, Mrs. Pendo Galukunde. Now, it is
She's an author.
She's an author of a book that we have right here before us, and that is going to guide the gist of our conversation. But even before we delve into the conversation of demystifying the drama of marriage, first of all, just the fact that there is drama in marriage is going to put some people off marriage. But she has gone through the trouble of putting all these insights in a book, beautiful book by the looks of it. And Mrs. Galukunde, I want you to tell us about yourself, and please elaborate on these many, many letters that follow your name. I'm saying MSc, MA, LPC, CMFT. Trust me, if you are my father's daughter, he'd be very proud. These are things that really move his heart. Extra letters.
Yes. That was my husband's idea.
Nice.
Please let us
You have to put credentials.
Yeah.
So I have a Master of Arts in Health Management from University of London. A Master of Science. And then a Master of Arts in Couple, Marriage and Family Counseling, or Couple, Marriage and Family Therapy from Regent University in the States. And LPC means I'm a licensed professional counselor.
Not professional coach?
No.
But you're an artist.
And I'm an artist. I just don't have any credentials to show that.
Wow.
Artist as in you draw or you sing?
I draw, I paint, but I run a social enterprise that makes art for over 15 years.
It's called This and That.
Correct.
This and That. Correct. We were privileged to, in my earlier life in advertising, to design her logo, which I don't know if you still use.
We still use. It's a beautiful logo. One of the things we got right.
I'm proud to be associated.
Thank you so much. It's a beautiful one.
So it's interesting that you are an artist, but your credentials that are on this book are about health and also about relational health. And if even as we get into it, thank you for introducing yourself. Let me just read what's this called? It's a summary of the book. I forget.
The back cover.
Yes, the back cover. Mm-hmm. So the title of Pendo's book is Demystifying the Drama of Marriage. And this is what the back cover says. Why do so many marriages fail? Only a few seem to thrive. What makes a marriage so hard? I think that's a question already. Having failed to find answers to these questions and facing conflicts in her own marriage, to the love of her life, Pendo begins a quest for the answers. Among other things, she enrolls in a master's in marriage and family counseling at Regent University in Virginia Beach, USA. During her studies, she finds unexpected answers to these questions. Using her new knowledge and skills, she transforms her marriage. Kudos on that, first of all. Knowing that most of her countrymen and women will not be able to access professional marriage counseling, Pendo shares the knowledge she has attained to remove the mystery that surrounds the tumultuous conflict years that are common to most marriages. Pendo.
Yes.
Why do so many marriages fail? What did you find out?
It's not an easy answer. I don't think I have yet been able to crystallize it into one thing, except to say the closest I can come to is saying that marriage is very dependent on the mental and emotional health of individuals, and most of us are in bad shape.
Mental and emotional health.
Yes.
It's funny that this word has come up again, mental health.
In the month of May, actually, it's the month of May focuses on mental health. I think worldwide, awareness and all that stuff.
Please tell us more. Because when you say mental health, in my mind, I'm thinking people who are in Butavika, people who are on the streets, or people who are maybe alcoholic. But even as you think about this, Lawrence, I think we've talked about this before, that when you're dealing with a broken person or someone who is struggling with addictions and substance abuse or depression, that don't just look at that person and dismiss them or judge them. Appreciate that they are treating a wound.
Absolutely.
So that by the time someone comes to a place where they are ready to leave their marriage, their nervous system has been wrecked. Please delve into that.
Well, first you asked about mental health, and I want to make the distinction between mental health and emotional health.
Nice.
So, mental health is about your thoughts. In psychology, we call them cognitions, your ability to process information. So, I will say something to Lawrence, and Lawrence will process that information and understand something else, or understand what I meant. If he understands what I meant, very good.
Also.
Yes. And many times we have developed certain filters through life so that we are not actually hearing what is shared.
Or what was intended to be communicated.
Yes. And we have, for example, if you think you're worthless, if your husband walks in and just says, oh, by the way, maybe you should start going to the gym. You're going to hear other things. You're ugly, or
so you're absorbing that information using the preset filters that you've developed.
Filters that were broken from childhood.
Right. And so that filter basically filters that information and sometimes can even amplify.
Yeah.
Is this why people
distort the information?
is this why they say that we don't see the world as it is, but as we are?
As we are.
Right.
So mental health is mostly about cognitions, your ability to function and process information.
Wow.
But then there's a very important part, emotional health, which is not completely divorced from the field of mental health,
yeah.
but I just want to highlight that
Yeah.
there's this thing called emotional health,
Yeah.
where we mostly process information through that. You need to go to the gym. I will sort of sense how I feel about that, and I may say something back about maybe I'm hurt. But for many of us, we are dismissed at a very young age. We're told to ignore these emotions and somehow lose touch with our emotional selves. So we lose the ability to synthesize and to communicate information. And yet it's a very critical part of being human. We actually communicate more by emotions than by words. So we're coming into adulthood. We look like adults, but really our ability to synthesize, process emotions, and express emotions is child level.
So, again, if you look at it from this angle, but at the point where input comes into your life, you are in a season or in a time where you're not emotionally well. Does that also affect the way you respond?
Yes, but emotionally well, when someone has been well emotionally, and then they go through a difficult season, there's a difference between someone who has actually developed fully emotionally and then they go through a difficult season, and someone who hasn't developed and then they go through a difficult season. Those are two different people, but most of us have not developed, and then we find ourselves in this place called marriage, which needs like university level skills for emotions and mental and emotional processing.
Do like 3 hours of this because there's just so much to unpack.
Should be three episodes.
you have felt it, isn't it?
Yeah,
you felt the depth that there is. I mean, there are very many talking points that she's already highlighted that we can just use those talking points alone. So even before we can go forward,
let me ask this question.
An hour or two.
Let me ask this question that my brother asked me one time. And it's really a two-pronged question. One, he asked, what is the right age for a man to get married? Number one. And then two, he asked me, how do you know who is the right person to marry? All right? The answers I gave him are very simple. I told him, before a man is 30, he has no business marrying. Before a man is 30, I do believe he has no business marrying. To speak to the development, the levels of development before one should contemplate getting married. And then to the question he asked me about how do you know who is the right person to marry, and I told him that one is also very simple. For me, the principle is brains over bums any day, because brains grow, bums shrink. Yeah, and
when you work out, bums can grow also.
And I hope one is also working out their mind. So what I'm saying here is that if you marry someone whose mind is switched on and someone whose mind is working, they will know that they always have to develop. And so you are set on a journey of growth in a balanced way, because someone is more about growth, maturity, thinking, and processing emotions. And about marrying, but generally, there are cycles in life, and that before a man is 30, he has not yet really discovered who he is and what he's all about. And imagine if you have the unfortunate experience of marrying a man going through quarter life crisis. You know that age between 26 and 30 when men get unhinged, and you have to wait every day at home for a man like that. I think men should do themselves a favor, even as you tell us about this development growth. Take us through that from childhood to now. I'm ready to settle down. How do we get there?
Okay. I wouldn't 100% agree with you about the age. I don't think it's about age.
Number.
There are people who are of age but just have how physically there's a developmental process that we all know. A child will be born and they cannot sit on day one. They lie down, that's all they can do. They cannot even burp themselves, and